Thank you so much, Laura. Up next, we will have Jason Bowman. I did want to point out, we are withholding institutional affiliations just to give our judges the best opportunity to score each presenter. So after we're done presenting today, we will acknowledge where each student is hailing from, and along with the winner as well. So, Jason.
Of all teachers in the room, who is sick and tired of always hearing that whoop whoop sound during your precious class time? Or who finds like they constantly have to be checking their student's laptop to make sure they aren't making some tweet about how they are just absolutely dying in class? Or find that they're chatting with a friend, saying how the professor's choice of clothes today are a step higher than something found in a garbage heap? Well, what if I told you that students today are actually using this technology to better their education? Seriously, in this new day and age, students are actually actively using this technology to better their academics. As a current college student studying integrated media, I find myself in contact with these study mediums every single day, and it's helped me not only to better understand the information, but to benefit me in more than one way. With the help of this technology, there's been a significant increase between a student's willingness to become more efficient and more engaged within the classroom. For many years, teachers and students have had a fairly simplistic relationship. The teachers try their best to express the knowledge that they've gathered over the past few years and present it in a way for the students to latch on and retain it. For some students, this has worked, but for others, they are missing out on a more hands-on approach that they needed to better understand the information that was being thrown at them. In this day and age, though, we have grown accustomed to having this hands-on approach as our most beneficial source of knowledge. We have the ability to get these answers in a matter of seconds, and get to hear millions of opinions and views just by a quick and easy search. In the article, Convenience, Communications, and Control, How Students Use Technology, 2004, by Robert Kavavik, a political science professor at the University of Minnesota, surveys traditional age college students, asking what their primary uses for the internet-based technology is. The study was able to conclude that the top 3 uses for this technology was 1, classroom activities and studying using an electronic device, 2, writing documents, word processing, and 3, surfing the internet for pleasure. Further proving that this technology is becoming vital to our everyday sources of learning. There's come a point in every student's life where they've realized that it's more important to make the grade than to see what their best friend is wearing that day, and to see that it is indeed totes adorbs. There's also the fact that this technology is possibly starting to make learning fun, instead of sometimes being the hassle it can be. In a recent study conducted by Orey Mongo, a professor of Arabic Studies at the California State University in 2015, found that iPad use increased student engagement within the classroom. The study gave 2 foreign language classes the use of iPads that were only stacked with apps and games that were useful for the knowledge. At the end of the study, both classes agreed that iPad use was not only fun to use, but also helped them to learn the needed material. They also found that there was increased collaboration between students. This speaks volumes, as this further goes to prove that with the use of this technology, students are becoming more engaged within their studies. They don't want to learn just the required material, but more and more. The use of this technology made them hungry for the knowledge, which not only benefited their academics, but allowed them to become more engaged as a whole with their learning. In 2013, Gallup reported that 55% of U.S. K-12 students were engaged in the learning process, while 28% are not engaged and 17% are actively disengaged. We are in a time where being engaged is the difference between the passing grade and the ever-growing pit of failure. Technology is constantly pushing our minds and concepts farther, pushing our understanding to an entirely new level than we've ever previously achieved. It pushes our minds to the point where we are creating new stories every single day. On Brookings.com, there was a post stating this: when students have this technology, they can create things, they can innovate things. They later go on to say, when given a tool like Photoshop, the students were not only creating pictures, but they were creating masterpieces. They were making art in films because they had this technology at their hands. And with this power, they can create worlds and share them with their classmates, friends, and teachers. And it's not just one student, but multiple. This shared passion and collaboration creates a whole new world of engagement to life, which is everything to the mind of a student. This passion was able to become more, leading students to fall in love with what they are learning about. and in turn push their learning to a point of thorough understanding that they kept with them for years to come. PearsonEd.com said it as such. If technology supports teachers' efforts to focus on effective practices that engage students, then we have another tool to engage that half of U.S. students who aren't currently engaged. Though it is successfully engaging these students, is it pushing their test scores up? Is it making these extreme leaps and bounds that I previously mentioned? According to the Conservation, a website dedicated to the restoration of technology and wildlife alike, in 2015 said the answer is yes. They state, as far back as 2010, reports were surfacing that mobile apps are not only engaging, but educational. For children as young as preschool, kids ages 3 to 7 who play the PBS app, Martha Speaks, had a 31% increase with their vocabulary. Another study by Abilene Christian University found that math students who use the app Statistics 1, as well as others, saw major improvements to their final grades. This in turn motivated the students to finish their learning through mobile devices rather than by textbook. It's becoming more clear that we are looking to be surrounded by this technology and access to these resources for years to come. And by then, who knows how far we will be with it. It's making a big wave to the hearts of our students, increasing not only their mental power and capacity, but their knowledge of the material. We as a society are growing smarter. And by the looks of it, we are just going to grow more and more. So I think it's high time that we embrace this technology for what it is and allow it to work its magic. To tie everything with a nice technically wired bow, we are in a day and age where technology use is only going to grow more and more relevant. We can't go back to the days without technology, or our entire system will burn out. We need these resources to keep us constantly growing and learning. Only then will we be able to understand where we are in the world. Technology has become an extremely useful guide in our education, quite possibly the best, and we need to keep pushing it farther to attain the most we can from our education. To quote blogger George Koros, technology will not replace great teachers, but technology in the hands of great teachers can be transformational. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Up next, we will have Morgan Lemons.
Throughout the U.S., purebred puppies are bred by the tens of thousands, many living in a hellish world of filthy, crowded cages. They are puppy mill puppies, and they bring in $4 million a year. I'm sure you've noticed the large gaps in my definition. This was intentional. Rather than just handing you the information up front, I wanted to ask you to think. Why is this presentation called The Puppy Mill Epidemic in Northeast Ohio specifically? I feel that when I fill in these gaps, that will become obvious. The word I've left out is Amish. I would like to state now, this is not a presentation against the Amish, but rather I am stating the fact that the Amish community are the largest contributors to puppy mills in the country. And according to Amish America 2017, Ohio has the largest number of Amish settlements. I believe I am credible to speak today because I am a monthly donor of the National Mill Dog Rescue. I have volunteered for the Humane Society of the United States, and I am currently collecting signatures for the Stop Puppy Mills Ohio legislation movement. I have also done extensive research to try to provide you with the best information I can. Today, I would like to discuss the puppy mill issue in Northeast Ohio and what we can do to help. First, I will define the problem, and next, I will talk about some solutions and steps we can take to help take action. And finally, I will tell the story of a puppy mill survivor and how she inspired the rescue of thousands of other dogs. Although puppy mills exist across the U.S., the Amish population in Ohio breeds more dogs than any other. According to Citizens Against Puppy Mills, in areas of the U.S. where the Amish dwell, there is a high number of puppy mills. Holmes County, Ohio has 470 kennels, more than any other county in the nation. I would like to illustrate this with a map of Ohio's counties. Here is Holmes County, Ohio, home to the largest number of puppy mills. And here is us, Stark County. These are our next door neighbors, the largest contributors to the problem. Next, Ohio's laws are too lenient. According to the Ohio Department of Agriculture, the Commercial Dog Breeders Act became effective March 13, 2013. I have taken the time to read through this act, and I am very disappointed with the actions that were taken. For outdoor regulations, some of these include the dogs must be fed once a day, the cage must have some sort of solid flooring, and the dogs must be able to stand up, turn around, and lay down as cage size requirements. According to Stop Puppy Mills Ohio, 12 Ohio breeders appeared in the Humane Society's Horrible 100 2017 report, demonstrating the animal welfare issues that persist in Ohio puppy mills. Some of these issues, according to the website, include dogs in immediate need of veterinary care, including dogs who are found to be limping, suffering from sores, skin lesions, and potentially exposed to illness from dead, decomposing puppies, which could be due to the small cage sizes. Enclosures that were filthy with feces and other grime. Rusted wire cages and other unsafe structures, which could be due to the poor flooring regulations. And insufficient and filthy food and water. The Commercial Dog Breeders Act had no emphasis on the quality of food that was to be provided for these dogs. Rather, as long as they ate something once a day, that was good enough for the state of Ohio. Now that I've defined the problem and its prevalence in our area, I would like to talk about some steps we can take to solve the problem. Since Northeast Ohio is the worst area for puppy mills in the country, that means we have the most power to change the situation. I'm sure everyone has heard the phrase, adopt, don't shop, but it is one of the greatest ways to help these dogs. According to the Humane Society, each year, 2.7 million dogs and cats are euthanized in shelters because too many pets come in and too few people consider adoption when looking for a pet. I know one argument I've heard against adoption is people are worried that they're going to get a mutt or an undesirable breed, but this couldn't be further from the truth. When you think about puppy mills, they are in the industry of making money. They are not going to breed dogs that aren't popular and aren't expensive. On the first slide of my presentation, I even stated purebred puppies. Also, you can petition for improved legislation or donate to the cause. A 2017 poll conducted by Stop Puppy Mills Ohio stated, over 6 times as many voters say they will strongly support this measure versus those who say they would vote no. 60% strongly support it and 9% don't. Ohio definitely wants these laws in place, but unfortunately a lot of people lack the motivation to actually go out and petition, and when this issue makes it onto the ballot, I'm sure a lot of people will lack the motivation to actually go to the polls. Now knowing the ways we can battle the puppy mill epidemic in Ohio, I would like to tell the story of a real puppy mill survivor and how the actions of a volunteer gave both their lives new meaning. I would like to read directly from the National Mill Dog Rescue Mission Statement. National Mill Dog Rescue was established in February 2007 in honor of a forgiving little Italian greyhound named Lily. During her years as a breeding dog, Lily spent all of her days confined to a cold wire cage in a foul-smelling barn. Lily was forced to produce one litter after another with no respite. By 7 years of age, Lily was worn out. Due to years of no dental care, poor quality food, and no appropriate chew toys, the roof of Lily's mouth and lower jaw had rotted away. Her chest was riddled with mammary tumors, and she was absolutely terrified of people. Teresa Strader brought Lily and 12 others home from the auction and declares that even for a highly seasoned rescuer, the following months were the education of a lifetime in rehabilitation. That she would take up for the cause for the puppy mill dogs was never in question, and National Mill Dog Rescue was promptly underway. Since 2007, National Mill Dog Rescue has been supported by hundreds of volunteers and rescued more than 12,500 dogs. This beautiful beagle off to the right is named Rose, and this was the 10,000 dog that Teresa Strader and her organization rescued. I would like to conclude my presentation by restating the information given and hopefully encouraging you to take action today. After describing why we as Ohioans should be concerned because of the Amish population, I gave a few solutions that we can take to help solve the problem, including adopting, voting, and donating to the cause. And finally, I read the story of Lily and how her courage and compassion allowed for the rescue of thousands of puppy mill dogs. I hope you now recognize the relevance of this issue and why we should take action against inhumane dog breeding. One step you can take today is to sign the Stop Puppy Mills Ohio legislation movement. I am currently petitioning and I have brought physical copies with me, but you can also sign it through the website. The only information required is your name and address, the same information you give to the pizza delivery guy. Dogs provide so many services to humans, including vital police work, acting as service and therapy animals, risking their lives in war, and simply living as man's best friend. I think the least we can do for them is ensure comfortable living environments, adequate food, and some compassion from the humans who breed them for profit. Thank you.
Thank you, Morgan. Last but certainly not least, we have Caitlyn George.
By a show of hands, how many in here have a distinct or a very favorite memory of their grandparents while they were growing up? Would anybody be willing to share one, just real quick?
My grandfather growing up absolutely loved to golf, and as a kid, though I couldn't swing a golf club at all, he'd always take me around and he'd have me go and help pick up his golf ball every now and then.
Anybody else?
My grandma has a huge backyard, and I have a very vivid memory of she gave me some squirrel feed, and there were a bunch of chipmunks in the yard, and I held out my hand, and there are actually pictures of me feeding the chipmunks, and then there are other pictures of me crying at the chipmunks.
But like you, I too have one, which I will talk about in a little bit. Unfortunately, not all elderly people have a family setting or even friends that are willing to step in and to be there with them and make those memories. Elder abuse and neglect is a topic that is very often overlooked. Many people look at it with an out of sight, out of mind concept just because we are so busy with our everyday lives, and typically these people are in nursing homes or they're isolated in their own homes. This can be intentionally done, or even when it's not intentionally done, it still causes abuse and neglect of these individuals. There are 46.2 million people who are considered senior citizens, or 65 years and older. To put this in perspective, that is the populations of California and Michigan combined. So this is a very large group of people. Of this, there are 5 million cases every year that are of abuse of the elderly population. To put this into perspective, this is 1 million more people than that of the population of Los Angeles. We all know how big Los Angeles is. Huge. There are only 1 in 10 of these cases that are actually reported, which means that 500,000 of 5 million cases are being reported every year, and this is simply not enough. The definition of elder abuse and neglect is the single or repeated action or the lack of action that generates harm or distress to elderly human beings. Now, there are many, many types of abuse, as you can see here. Physical abuse and psychological abuse tend to be the most prominent. I interviewed Keitha Huntsman, who is now a retired nursing home administrator. She worked in both Arizona and Pennsylvania, and it helps that she was my grandmother, so it was a nice conversation. She was telling me about the different kinds of abuse that she's seen as well. And I'm also an STNA. I have been for 3 years now. I've worked in nursing homes. I've worked for visiting nurses. So I've seen the different types of abuse, unfortunately, firsthand, and have unfortunately had to report it for others. So to put this into perspective, I have a few examples that I can give you. According to the Altoona Mirror, in 2016, it was a recent article, that just came back out, actually. A 78-year-old man sexually abused another female resident at a veteran's home. And it was just coming back into the paper recently because he has dementia and has progressed enough that he can no longer stand trial. When I was working in a nursing home, I witnessed financial abuse of a family of one of the residents that I was taking care of. She was in no shape to go home. Unfortunately, her home was going to be taken away from the family because they had started living there, and she was not there, so the government had stepped in and said they were taking it unless she was living there. So they took her home regardless of the fact that they ignored that we needed them to come in for training. She had a few things that we needed to go over with them as she was getting older. Things were
not progressing as well as we had hoped with getting her through rehab. My grandmother said that that is actually a very common type of abuse. And another one that she said that's very prominent on a facility standpoint is actually understaffing. Unfortunately, I was involved in one of these incidences. I worked for a nursing home, and there was one night on the 2 to 10 shift that only 3 of us came in. Now, on a normal night, you're looking at 7 or 8 aides coming in, splitting up the hallways, maybe 2 or 3 per hall. We each had to take 1 hall, and that meant we were taking care of 30 people for the whole shift. That meant getting them up from their nap, getting them ready for dinner, feeding them dinner, getting them back and taking them to activities, and then getting them ready for bed, giving them their showers, whatever else was required of them for the night. And unfortunately, it's a very common thing, and luckily that facility was taken over by another one and is now being run appropriately. Patient advocacy is one of the biggest ways to step in and give these people a voice. Organizations like Medicare, Administration on Aging, and state agencies are stepping in and giving these people a voice and making sure that there are more cases being heard every year. The best that I have personally seen is family stepping in, which is where my memory comes in. So this is a way throwback picture from a very long time ago, and that is my Nana sitting in the chair there holding my little brother. She went into a nursing home, and she was there for about 10 years. And I remember going in with my grandmother, and we would sit outside in one of the swings, and I would quiz her with my spelling words for that week. And she could get every single one of them right. And she was 100 years old and was spelling stuff that I couldn't spell in like 6th and 7th grade. So it was just one of the fun memories that I had. Unfortunately, she went through an episode of being abused and neglected in the nursing home. She went into the nursing home, and within the first month, she started losing weight. She started withdrawing. She started not wanting to spell the words for me. She started just not acting like herself. So my grandmother, who's actually standing up in the picture there, went in every day for about a month at first and found out that my Nana was not being taken care of properly. She was not being fed her meals. She was not being showered appropriately. She was not being taken to activities, etc., etc. So my grandmother and my great aunt and a few very trusted friends went in every day for 10 years just to make sure that my great-grandmother ate 1 meal a day, was showered when she needed to be, and was taken care of and given the people interaction that she needed. There are other ways that you can volunteer as well. It's the best way to get involved and to start making connections with these people. These are just some of the few nursing homes that I know of in the area, that I was just thinking of them off the top of my head. If you go into Google and do a Google search, you can actually come up with a huge list of all of the other nursing homes in the area, as well as other organizations like the Visiting Angels that go into people's homes and go and visit them. You can go to the activities page, or you can go to their volunteering page, fill out a little information, and you can set up a day that you can go play bingo. Take a choir in and go sing to them over the holidays. They absolutely love it whenever they have people coming in, talking to them, hearing what they have to say, just willing to sit there and listen to them speak and listen to their stories. They absolutely love it. Another organization is Meals on Wheels that actually take hot meals to people that are stuck in their homes every year. Living in a nursing home is very expensive. So many people decide to just stay at home as long as they possibly can, but they lose the ability to remember to shut the oven off or how to cook this properly. So Meals on Wheels goes in and they take food in every week. They're getting human interaction every week, and they're getting a hot meal. I hope that I have given you enough information to understand that this is a very big and a very growing problem that can actually be fixed. The more time we spend with our elders, which is also those grandparents that we were thinking so fondly of at the beginning here, the less likely they are to be abused and neglected. This will then give them the best last years of their life that they could possibly have. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlyn. Wow, what an impressive group of speakers. Can we get another round of applause? this point, I'm going to welcome our judges to head out. Aaron's going to take you to a nice, quiet spot where you can deliberate and discuss and come back with the decision on our winner for the evening. But we've got a couple things in store for you here. I'm going to let Michael take over and talk about what we're going to do while we're waiting on our judge's decision.
All right, our first activity, since Paul said I wasn't allowed to sing during this time, we are going to invite Courtney Tyler up here to speak to us. She was the winner of last year's Intercampus Clash. So Courtney, come please join.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's an honor to